a man I've known for nearly a decade, Mr. Liam Villani.
How are you? Are you all good, Sharia?
All good, Liam, all good. So I've heard that, you've been up to some, really interesting things. You've obviously, you spent some time in India, you're working in emphasis, and you conducted some, some research there. And along the way, you've obviously, made a few connections. And that's why we're delighted to welcome on Ivan onto our podcast. So, Ivan and Liam, I just want to hear a little bit more about, the research you've been doing. Can you just sort of give us a brief, background into the whole story, what you've researched into, what your takeaways have been so far?
Yeah. So maybe Ivan, let me start. I'll talk a bit about the
Yeah, right.
context, and then you
Yeah,
can go on about a bit of the
yeah,
research. So
yeah.
we both spent some time in India. We were well, it was like a sort of a consulting internship in India, and we sort of immersed ourselves within sort of the IT and the tech ecosystem in India and Bangalore. And we took part in a hackathon event. It was a hackathon event organized by Infosys, very well-known IT company there. And we were given the task of looking sort of into agentic AI, the uses of agentic AI, how we can sort of integrate that into legacy systems, but also systems for sort of major industries in the next 5 to 10 years. So, Ivan, why don't you not? I'll hand over to you. Why don't you talk about what we actually did?
Right. So, like Liam said, we took part in this like a 2-day hackathon where our task was to use agentic AI to sort of solve or improve upon some of the problems that they were Infosys, more specifically Edgeverse, which is like a subsidiary of Infosys that were facing. And one of the statements, the problem statements that were giving to us was how can brands or any sort of enterprise, um, how can they leverage user sentiment or perception, brand perception, like their own perception? How can they use those sort of soft metrics to to use that as an evaluation framework and perhaps use it against themselves or maybe with other clients, other brands, and to perhaps analyze their own capability for any like potential IPO offering or any like enterprise movements or anything that they might want to do in the future. So that was the crux of the problem.
And
And
just sort of,
yeah.
sorry to cut you off, but just sort of a couple questions on that. The first one being, obviously, agentic AI, Gen AI, these are sort of jargons, and not everyone might understand these in the world. So if you sort of had to define what agentic AI is, how would you sort of define that in sort of layman's language? And the second question being, is this sort of sentiment analysis similar to what we see hedge funds doing as part of algorithmic trading? Is it the same sort of thing, or is that a different approach?
Okay, so for the first question, what's agentic AI? So agentic AI is an extension of the traditional AI. So traditional AI is just what we keep hearing on a daily basis. So like machine learning, where the computer learns by itself, it learns from uh, the its surroundings, it uses data to feed its models. It uses like these external stimuli to sort of learn stuff that's relevant. So it's a really generic area. That's AI. Agentic AI here focuses on a new capability where if if we link AI to, let's say, an LLM, so like a language model, some sort like ChatGPT, if we link AI to that, like a sort of a language model, and give it some tools to to choose upon, we sort of automate the system. So till this point, AI has just been following what humans tell it to do. It's been always rules driven till this point. So agentic AI is just really trying to automate the AI, the framework, really, in
It,
essence.
it's sort of saying humans are there, but we don't need humans, right? We
Yeah.
can create a communication link, a sort of a decision making framework where you get rid of the humans, the and you get rid of the need for just reacting or following prompts. You're actually making the prompts yourself, and you're making those decisions yourself.
And
Yes, correct.
I'm also aware that both of you, throughout your research, you touched upon a concept called federated learning. So, how would you sort of define this, and why is it such a breakthrough for a data sharing industry like finance?
So yeah,
Right.
maybe what I'll do, let me just go on to sort of how we got there first.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
no,
sure,
go
sure.
for
Sort
it.
Yeah.
of
Absolutely.
agentic
Yeah.
AI is a really big topic. And it's a new technology, right? AI in itself is very new. Agentic AI is sort of a very new topic in the space. But you agentic AI as a system can only come about when the actors in industry share data, right? And that sort of got us onto federated learning because for any of these AI systems to work, they need to work based on giving data. But when you're looking at agentic AI, you can't give data because they're not asking for prompts. They're just going to rely on a set of data which they're going to do autonomously without any human interaction, right? And so federated learning really is that key to be able to do that. It's when you have shared models, you have shared sort of data depositories, and all of the organizations can provide data safely. So if they want to secure data, if they want to encrypt data, they can do that. They share their data, and so that agentic AI sort of models can identify patterns and share those patterns with all of the actors without having to share the raw data itself.
And can you sort of explain as well your IPO brand intelligence system, the idea of patent cards, and how that sort of helps banks and investors make better decisions without, sharing the sensitive information?
Right. IPOs. Need IPOs are made with decisions. So enterprises, companies, they they want to make better data informed decisions, not only using financial indicators, but also using branding, market positioning, and those sentiment analysis and those sort of insights. So traditional IPO heavily relies on revenue growth, market demand, and all those business metrics. But what this IPO system, brand intelligence system, what this adds is we look at employee sentiment, maybe through Glassdoor or LinkedIn, social media buzz, or any sort of media narratives, or even the competitive positioning of the company that's in focus. And that comes to pattern cards. So pattern cards are just privacy preserving summaries or insights extracted from the raw distributed data. So they act as sort of templates for these performance signals. So in essence, they're just sort of a layer that's placed on top of the raw data just to maintain privacy in a sense, because that's concerning, right? Many in enterprises worldwide, and so we want to get past those privacy frameworks through these patent cards framework
And
in
if you look,
essence.
Sharia, maybe and to the audience in terms of yeah, it's all very technical. But when you get down to the actual basis of this, um, there are so many IPOs which are the valuations are super high, and then you come to the actual IPO and it crashes. WeWork, plenty of other ones out there, right? And so there is a missing perception which people aren't seeing in the run up to the IPO, but they see once that IPO happens. And and if you look, WeWork, you're looking at billions of dollars wiped off that value, and billions of dollars which shareholders and investors are going to lose. That is huge value, which small amounts of data or small sort of perceptions are impacting, right? And that's what we're trying to look at. How can we identify those impacts, right? And the other thing, just to say, in terms of the federated learning system, it really democratizes finance. It really democratizes the industry, right? Because in this sort of framework, it doesn't matter if you're a big institution or you're a small institution, right? You all have access to that. I know the likes of HSBC or other big banks might be scared to share their data with smaller players, but they're not actually. They're actually just sharing patterns with the other players, but they will also gain from having that wealth of knowledge, right? So it's really that win-win sort of system.
And what are sort of the biggest challenges involved in scaling a federated learning system across a financial institution? I know obviously you've touched upon, the hesitancy of big institutions like HSBC, but from a sort of like a technical standpoint, the risks associated with maybe the cybersecurity aspects, data leakage, cultural, maybe anything else regulatory.
Yeah, I'd say regulatory is the big thing, right? It's data sharing. We need to make sure that people can want to share their data, but also the security is there for sharing data, especially in like the finance industry of all places. It's you have to protect that. It's encouraging actors to get involved, right? I think federated learning is a very, very new area. A lot of banks, a lot of financial institutions
Hmm.
don't have the knowledge or the experience in that, so it's sort of overcoming that barrier. And then, yeah, definitely the regulation, regulation across the globe is different, and that's going to really shape how we're able to construct a data depository like that.
And say we would see this be widely adopted in finance in maybe the next, 5, 10 years. How do you think that will shape our capital markets?
Right. So capital markets would move from isolated analytics to more ecosystem level learning. So think of it like a financial brain trust. So that's built collaboratively across institutions. So that would mean that nobody really owns all data, but everybody would benefit from collective patterns. So such collaboration like across banks, fintechs, regulators, exchanges, and even asset managers or something. So every entity can train their own model with their own customer data, customer segmentation data or something. And all those models could feed into like a centralized hub and it could benefit everybody equally. So right now, the smaller institutions, they don't have enough data to train their own they train their own models, their own powerful models, and they can't afford to have AI, that necessary AI infrastructure to do so. So with this sort of learning, they can contribute small amounts of data and they can take back the equal benefits as well.
I think also it's just really important to note IPOs, listing on the stock exchanges are super, super important, right? Not only are you seeking to raise financing to invest, but you're also allowing smaller time investors. It's not just big investors buying shares, it's small time investors, right? So when we can actually price these companies well, and we can then price them precisely, you're going to help out a lot of people make money, right? And you're going to help financing things like that, and that's just going to encourage more and more companies to list, right? Smaller companies and bigger companies. So in the end, it's a win-win for everyone. It's a win-win for the companies. They're going to have better valuations, and it's a win-win for investors and investment banks and people like that who will be more encouraged to sort of raise capital, buy shares, and they're going to have more clients in the end. These investment banks.
And one thing both of you sort of touched upon is having a sort of centralized system. How do you sort of see that working with regulatory? I know we sort of covered the regulatory part anyway, but more so on the accounting standards, right? Obviously, US adopts GAAP, Europe, UK, IFRS. So how do you sort of see that playing into it as well?
I think I'd say in that sense, it's building slowly. It's building stage by stage, and it's sort of seeing the win-wins. Obviously, yeah, the Europe versus the US. There's different accounting standards, different regulations, all of this sort of stuff. But I think over time you'll see everything sort of migrating into one clear sort of way of doing things across the world, and that will make it easier. But I think that is definitely a hurdle that still needs to be overcome.
So just before we sort of go, I have one final question for both of you. Obviously, you've done a lot of great work, a lot of great research into this. What has a general experience been like? Diving into something that's maybe a bit more complex than what the average person would do. What's that sort of been like? Obviously you're also going to be looking to publish an article about this. So what's that experience been like as well?
So for me, coming from like a computing background, for me, I was sort of brought into this. So I kind of knew a little bit about this before actually starting on this through the hackathon. But still, it was fairly new to me. The concepts were pretty new to me, and how I felt was it was like entirely we're just jumping a river maybe like without a bridge because it's so new. There's no much information online. It's the research and all the relevant stuff that's available, all the articles and all is still fairly new. And a research area that links federated learning would be self-generated LLMs, so self-generated language models. So that's actually a pioneering research. Even my university is undertaking, whereby we try to train language models to interact with each other and by itself, to loop it itself. So to sort of speak to itself and evaluate its own decisions. So that sort of feeds into this federated learning framework. So it's really brought together everything. And yeah, it was a learning curve, certainly.
I think I'd echo that point, but also just say it's my first time doing a hackathon. These competitions, these events are really interesting, right? You've got 24 hours or 48 hours to get a proof of concept sorted from sort of idea generation, research, testing, then the proof of concept, then a sort of a go-to-market strategy as well. It is a truly tiring experience, but really amazing. And I think people should be getting involved with this. This should be happening all over the world, right? It's not. It doesn't matter whether your solution or your idea is going to become $1 million idea. You're contributing towards a general sort of advancement in insights and knowledge, and I think that's really crucial. And so yeah, it's been amazing. And we'll see what happens. But Sharia, I'm sure the listeners, if you're interested in our article, we'll be able to publish a link to our article so that people can read more. And if they have any other questions, I'm sure yeah, Ivan and me would be happy to take
Yes.
any other questions. So please just get in touch with us, and we'd love to keep the conversation going.
Yes, certainly.
Yeah.
Yeah, related to yeah.
Ivan, do you want to, mention to our guests how potentially they can reach out to you if they have any of the further questions? I know for Liam, the email's always in the description.
But
There's a very easy way to reach out to
I'm
him.
sure, Ivan, we can share your LinkedIn
Yeah, of
account as
course.
well, right?
Yeah. You could reach me through email or my socials, maybe
Yeah.
LinkedIn.
So why don't
Yeah,
we
one
not?
of those
Yeah, we'll
ways.
we'll share
Yeah,
those. And then
yeah,
yeah, please just and LinkedIn, socials, emails, and we can share all
yeah,
of that information online,
yeah.
right? Yeah.
Great. For now, everyone, thank you so much for listening and see you on the next one.